Concerned what it hit for, cause I've still come to raise hell like Mephisto. Please don't front, cause I'll karate chop your lymph node. Noodle arm punk you punch and end up with your wrist.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today, we're going to talk about Ring of Honor Best in the World 2021 from June 11th. Not June, July 11th. All right, so this show from top to bottom was fantastic. There was only, a couple of matches that I would not have preferred not to sit through. Pretty much only one. This is a 4-hour show. So it had a 1-hour pre-show, 3-hour main card. It became clear later in the show that they were rushing and trying to hurry up and get some things done. So that means something went a little long. In any event, let's get into the show. Let's work from the top to the back. Okay. Let's start with the main event. So Bandito and Roosh. Bandito wins the ROH world title over Roosh. This was fantastic. This was great. What made this really work was the fact that Roosh could have won this match earlier. So it was basically Roosh and his obsessive desire to humiliate all of his opponents. Not just win, but to make people look really bad and to really cause a lot of pain and, beat people up. That led him to, he hit his finish, the bull's horns, early in the match, probably like 2 or 3 minutes in. And Bandito wasn't able to move. He put his foot on his chest, won, and then he took it off and he mocked the crowd a little bit. And then through the match, he was basically being physically dominant. They were working this match as if Roosh was goddamn Andre the Giant. And Bandito's a smaller guy, sure, but he's not that much smaller than Roosh, But they were working this match as if Roosh was Andre the fucking Giant. And anyway, so they had all of these, little tricks and everything. Roosh does what Roosh does, which is choke people with the ropes and, well, not the ropes, but the cables outside the ring, whipping them with the cables. Stuff right in front of the referee, by the way. But that's part of the Los Ingobernables gimmick where, they dare you to disqualify them. But Bandito, of course, is fighting from underneath. He's pulling out some big moves in the match. I really enjoyed the top rope moonsault slam that he pulled off. He took a second to not bury it. This is what genuine lucha libre doesn't really always kill itself. Sometimes when you see garbage lucha, these guys do like big spectacular moves, but they bury it. In this one, they actually did a good job. Bandito hit his finish, the 21 plex, and Roosh kicked out of that. But the finish came when Roosh had Bandito beat. He had him beat again. But this time, he again didn't go for the pin. This time, he ripped his mask. Cause that's part of the disrespect. It's one of the top ways of disrespecting the luchadors by ripping the mask. And he rips the mask. The referee gets in the way. Roosh shoves the referee down. The referee distracts Roosh. When Roosh turns around, Bandito rolls him up in a, kind of like a victory roll and gets a very awkward 3 count. Now, you could question whether Roosh's shoulders was really down or not. But it was a 3 count. Therefore, Bandito won. And, of course, it was a huge surprise because I did not expect Bandito to win. This was phenomenal. This was Roosh, his desire to disrespect people. Instead of focusing on winning, he had another agenda, to humiliate Bandito. And he got hoisted upon his own petard. That's why he lost. He lost because he was distracted by his own desire to humiliate Roosh. To humiliate Bandito and not just pin him. So post-match, Los Ingobernables, La Facción Ingobernables, I should say, beat up Bandito. So we don't get the big, well, there was no streamers or anything like that anyway, because they said they didn't want that stuff because of COVID. But so you had all of that. We didn't get like a big hero's surprise. Bandito didn't stand tall at the end of the show. In fact, he was laid out and stomped out by La Facción Ingobernables. But they telling the story that, there's factions fighting and there's faction war in Ring of Honor. There's the Foundation, there's Valles Unlimited, and there's La Facción Ingobernables. But now Bandito is, he's not a part of a group anymore. He was part of Mexi Squad. But now Mexi Squad is broken up because Flamita has turned heel. So the question now is, who's going to help Bandito? So you have, of course, Ray Horace, who's probably going to be one of them. But he's going to need some help. He's going to need some friends. So maybe that's where we're going to start here is we're going to try to find Bandito some friends and help him to maintain his world title and not just have people beat him up and take it because, he's outnumbered all the time. But for an undersized babyface, this was phenomenal. I enjoyed the fuck out of this. This was, of course, the match of the night. So, working backwards, Maria came out and made some announcements that the women's tournament is going to start in late August on Ring of Honor TV. Vita Von Star had broke some rules, so they took her out of the tournament, and they were replacing her with Chelsea Green. So Chelsea Green, who I thought was going to Impact, and I think a lot of people did think she was going to Impact, she swerved on us, bro, and she went to Ring of Honor. So she comes out and she gives the obligatory "I was held down by WWE" promo. This is what freedom feels like. All that kind of junk. Meanwhile, her arm is in a cast as if she hadn't gotten injured all these times. And she basically says, I'm here to make Ring of Honor's women's division the best in the world. That's essentially it. It's okay, I mean, okay. It is what it is. I just think that the obligatory anti-WWE promo, I mean, you would think 20 years of that shit, people would get tired of it and they wouldn't, bite on that damn worm every time. But the internet bites on that worm every single time. That's just why the people do it. I guess it's the easiest way of getting attention after you leave WWE is to say, oh, they held me down and this is what freedom feels like. But she can't wrestle for a month anyway because her arm is in a cast. So I'm guessing she doesn't have a 90-day, or they're probably going to let her out of it early because she says she's wrestling in a month when her cast comes off. And I wonder how much longer before she put a cast back on. I wonder who's going to get injured first, her or Tegan Knox. Well, Tegan Knox is working now, so I don't know. But Chelsea Green, good luck to her. This is a good pickup for Ring of Honor. She's a name. She's somebody people know. But that leaves, of course, the option of who's going to be at Slammiversary? Who's going to be wrestling Deonna Purrazzo at Slammiversary? And I'm guessing it's going to be Ruby Riott. I don't know what her name is now, but I'm going to go with Ruby Riott. I think if it was going to be Mickie James, it would be cool if it was Mickie James. She could win the Impact title and bring it over to NWA and then wrestle for it at the Empower event. That would be pretty cool. I don't know how much time is between Slammiversary and Triple Mania, because again, they've got the Triple Mania match where it's the Impact Women's Champion versus the AAA Women's Champion, the Reina de Reinas. So I'm guessing that's still going to be Deonna Purrazzo. So it's likely that she could lose the title at Slammiversary and win it back before then, which I would rather she just didn't lose it, but that could happen. But I'm going to go with either Mickie James or Ruby Riott now. All right, so let's go with the rest of the card. Match 8 was Rhett Titus and Jonathan Gresham versus Chris Dickinson and Homicide in a ROH Tag Team title match, Fight Without Honor, which is no disqualification. So this is Jonathan Gresham's second match of the night. He had to fill in for Jay Lethal, who was filling in for Tracy Williams, and whose Tracy Williams was not cleared by the Maryland Athletics Commission because I think he got hit by a car, but he's still not physically able to perform. So Lethal was supposed to take his spot, but then Lethal, got his ass kicked earlier in the night. We'll get there in a minute. So they needed Jonathan Gresham to take his place. This match was really fast-paced. They really did a lot in this joint. Homicide pins Gresham with the Cop Killer, which is basically with the Vertebraker. But there was some really cool spots in here. They did a razor. Dickinson did a razor's edge from the top rope through a table on Rhett Titus, which was pretty crazy. At one point early in the match, Homicide gets a Michinoku driver through a table, and he yells at Rhett Titus, who put him through the table, "I hate you, bro." So Chris Dickinson, who we're told is not formally signed to Ring of Honor, is now a Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion, and Homicide does double duty with Ring of Honor and NWA. So this is pretty cool. You know, the Foundation, of course, had to cough up the tag team titles because they had a guy who was injured, and they really don't have a problem in Ring of Honor of taking the titles off people if they're injured. So that seems to be the case here. But this match was really fun. It was great. I enjoyed it. Also, another match that was really fun that had something to do with injury was Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee had to have surgery, I think, on his ear or something like that. But he couldn't defend the television title, and Kenny King defended the title for him. Kenny King lost the belt to Tracy Williams. Tracy Williams then lost the belt to Tony Deppen. Now Deppen walks into Best in the World as the television champion against Dragon Lee. And this match was fun, but I almost wrote on Twitter that they're having a Dynamite match. Basically, this is a match that would have fit, as the number 3 match on a Dynamite show, because they did a lot of nonsense. Let me walk you through this. For starters, early in the match, Tony Deppen did a top rope suicida into a Canadian destroyer on the floor. So picture pasty white dude jumps between the ropes. In a very smooth fashion, he did a kind of a sunset flip into a power driver, and that was not the finish. That was, of course, not the finish. Then you had these two guys trade in German suplexes, where it was like German suplex, then Deppen would get up, and before he was up on his feet before Dragon Lee was up on his feet, and then he would suplex Dragon Lee. Then Dragon Lee would be up on his feet before Deppen got up on his feet, and they would German suplex, and they was going back and forth with that. So you had that crap, and then the finish. Hold on, before I get there. Then we had the Dragon Driver, which is sort of like a tombstone power driver. I think it's similar to Chris Statlander's finish, where it's like you hook the arms under you hook the legs of your opponent upside down under your arms, and you jump up and come down on it. Tony Deppen kicked out of that. The finish, though, a running knee strike. So you ran your goddamn leg, you run your knee into somebody's head. That's a finish. You drop somebody on their head directly, not a finish. Come on, bro. That was the one thing about this match that I did not like. It was absolute garbage. Those two spots in particular I did not care for. But I did like it. It was a physical match. I love Dragon Lee. He's phenomenal. Tony Deppen, I could take him or leave him. But I really enjoyed Dragon Lee and his performances. So this was phenomenal. So that was match 7. Match 6. Jonathan Gresham versus Mike Bennett for the ROH Pure Championship. This match was very good. This is probably the best Mike Bennett match I've seen in years. I think I probably saw I don't know when the last time I saw a good Mike Bennett match, if we believe it or not. Was it? Well, I think he did have a decent 205 Live match with Drake Maverick. I think that match was pretty decent. I think they had a hardcore match or no disqualification match of some sort. But that was pretty decent. But this was the best match he's had since, and probably the best match he's had in a long, long time. Jonathan Gresham, they both burnt out all of their rope breaks. But Gresham is a technical savage. He's very small, but his style covers up that he's small. Like every time I see the tail of the tape and I see 5'4", I just say to myself, Jonathan Gresham is is a very dangerous dwarf. He's very small, but his style works for him. At one point in this match, he put Mike Bennett in a Kimura outside the ring and was walking him around with it. And it looked like he was going to throw him into the ring apron, into the ring post, which would have been vicious. But he didn't do it. And Bennett is tapping out, but he's outside the ring, of course. They were outside the ring forever, but I think they had a 20 count, so it makes sense. He ended up dragging him back into the ring with the Kimura and ended up being a rope break. They did a great false finish where Mike Bennett throughout the night was trying to get a power driver because that's one of his big moves. He finally hits the power driver, gets a 3 count, but Gresham's foot is under the ropes. So the referee counts to 3. Mike Bennett thinks he's won, but The referee sees after the 3 count, oh, no, 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 no. That was Gresham's last rope break. So it told a great story of Gresham had one more rope break left. And that saved him with the power driver. But he ended up winning, but with a very unique submission hold that I've never seen before. And that's typically how Jonathan Gresham matches end. He used very, very nice submission holds that I've never seen anywhere else before. So he maintains the Pure Championship. So of the titles in Ring of Honor, La Facción Ingobernables has the TV title. The Violence Unlimited have the tag team titles. And the world title is now on Bandito. So you now have pretty much everybody has their own little titles. They've been doing a good job of keeping titles relevant between the 3 groups. They've been passing them around so they don't get to stick too long and no one team gets too dominant. So that's been pretty good. So match 5, Brody King versus Jay Lethal, and God bless Jay Lethal because he's doing his best to get other people over. I mean, he's really doing yeoman's work in trying to get other people over. And he pretty much just let Brody King do whatever he wanted. He came out in a singlet, which told me, like, when you go from, regular tights to, like, singlets, you kind of like, you must be washed. But this was a fun match, but to me, it just kind of felt like there were, every time I see Jay Lethal now, because he loses so often, and he doesn't win that often anymore. He's still considered to be the quote leader of the foundation, even though he loses more matches than anybody else in the foundation at this point. But that's why I say, like, God bless Jay Lethal for trying to get other people over, because that's really what he's been doing with all these losses. It's been trying to utilize his reputation to put other people over. But this kind of proves you can't lose to everybody. Like, if Brody King was one of the few people who had beaten him recently, I think this would matter a lot more. But because he's been trying to put over other people too by doing jobs to them, this really didn't have the effect that it should have. But it was still a pretty dominant victory for Brody King, who's a very, very physical competitor. I really like his work. I enjoy Brody King when he's able to work big. They did a decent spot outside the ring where Brody King positioned Lethal in the chair, then a cross body outside the ring. The referee was not counting. The referee was outside the ring, of course, not counting. They was outside the ring forever. It's just, that's becoming a wrestling thing where the referees just are like, wrestlers put refs in the position where either count me out or, whatever. But after the match, Brody King shook Lethal's hand. Lethal was laid out on the ground. But this match had some serious, well, I wouldn't say serious, but it had some good stakes. And not in that somebody was going to win something or lose something. But Jay Lethal has been cutting these Ric Flair, demented promos now, where he's been saying, like, this is a war for the soul of Ring of Honor. And whether it's going to be wrestling or violence, this match was supposed to be, like, which is going to prevail. And Jay Lethal kept saying, wrestling must prevail. But every time he cuts that promo, he seems to lose. So it is what it is. Silas Young and Josh Woods had a last man standing match that Josh Wood won with a German suplex off the ring apron through 2 tables. Here's the cool thing. This was a great fucking finish. And I hate that they did the double table spot again in the main event with Roosh and Bandito. If you follow the channel, maybe you're not even that into Ring of Honor. You just, like listening to my analysis. You probably listened to me talk about when Lana says that her table spot from the Survivor Series got nixed because Roman Reigns was doing a table spot. This is why you do that. Josh Woods and Silas Young did a double table spot. There was no need for Bandito and Roosh to do a double table spot. Their match didn't even need it. Their match wasn't even no disqualification. Their match did not need a double table spot. But you had 2 different matches with 2 double table spots. And then you also had a a fight without honor where people were using tables in a match, and you had a last man standing match where guys were using tables on the same card. You know, like there's something about how you put together cards where you don't have repetition in that way. But this match was still fun. Josh Woods winning is the right decision. This guy should be near the top of any division and should be competing for titles. You know, hopefully Josh Woods is done with Silas Young. Not that there's anything wrong with Silas Young, but Josh Woods is a top guy who should be doing top guy shit. You know, he's a top guy who should be doing top guy shit. That was the fourth match. Third match, Shane Taylor Promotions defeats Eli Isom, Dak Draper, and Dalton Castle with a package power driver on Dak Draper. I don't know why Dak Draper is the guy taking the pin. He's tremendous. Like, Dak Draper is tall. He's well built. He can cut a promo. I don't understand why we're beating Dak Draper. I don't know. I also don't understand why Dalton Castle, who kicked both of these guys in the nuts, is now teaming with them. I don't know why that works either. But I guess they just had to put Shane Taylor Promotions on the card, and they won, so it doesn't matter. This was one of the matches I really didn't need. Shane Taylor Promotions, you know, they're fine. They just don't have a trio to wrestle. So they just throw teams together for them to wrestle. I would have preferred if they would just put this on TV. So that means the next couple of weeks of TV is probably going to be very weak. But Shane Taylor Promotions did not need to be on this show. Flip Gordon versus EC3. This match was pretty solid too. I really enjoy Flip Gordon. I think he's gone away from being a flippity-doo wrestler and is able now to mix it up. But he lost this match, which is really bizarre because he has a title match next month. He is the number one contender for the Ring of Honor World title, and he lost this match by submission. You know, a butterfly face buster into what he called the Purpose, which is basically a grounded Cobra Clutch from what it looks like. Riccaboni was once again oozing over EC3's body, which made me feel uncomfortable, but whatever. Gordon has, again, like I said, mixed up his style. He now works a lot of submissions and still utilizes his agility to evade and do different things like that, so it's pretty good. After the match, of course, there was no post-match handshake by Flip Gordon. He was disgusted. And then he smacked EC3, smacked him twice. The crowd chanted one more time as he smacked EC3 and refused to shake his hand. EC3 kept his hand out, and then Flip Gordon hocked a loogie and spit it in EC3's face. And you can see phlegm dangling from EC3's face. I have a very low bar for disgusting stuff, right? Spit being one of those things. That is incredibly gross, right? It's one thing to be like, "Puh," and it's not really much of anything. When I can see like gobs dangling from somebody's face, I have no interest in that. That is absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. It's gross. You know how some people feel about blading? That's how I feel about people spitting on each other. I can't stand it. It's so gross to me. It's I have a weak stomach when it comes to that stuff. But the match itself, it was fine. The first match on the show, Brian Johnson and PJ Black versus the Briscoes. This match was good. It was a solid opener. Brian Johnson came to the ring. He's talking himself to the ring now. He cut a promo on the Briscoes. He talked about their dad. He talked about their parents. He talked about the stupid people in the crowd. You know, that kind of stuff. But that was important because later in the match, Jay Briscoe was whooping his ass. And Jay Briscoe's, kicking him across the head and like, talk that shit now. Talk that shit now. And then Brian Johnson, instead of, shirking like a heel would do, he fires up. He gets in Briscoe's face and he's yelling like, I worked my whole life for this. I ain't backing down. I ain't backing down. And then, they get into it, throwing forearms back and forth or whatever. So that was pretty sweet. The finish came with the Froggy Bow, which is Mark Briscoe's finish on PJ Black. So PJ Black got pinned. I want to see more of Brian Johnson, though. He needs to be doing something more, too. Like, he has, I gotta say, he's the most miserable man in wrestling right now. Great promo. He really could be doing a lot more, especially in the pure division or in the television division. Brian Johnson would be really good. I thoroughly enjoyed his work. All right, so let's go into the pre-show now. The pre-show was dominated by promo segments mostly, but it did have two matches. These had the Bouncers versus, which is Beer City Bruiser and Brian Malonis versus Danhausen and PCO. Danhausen and PCO got a very good reaction from the crowd. I'm glad that Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni was basically are free on commentary to say certain things. And Caprice Coleman was talking about how he was concerned about how a lot of wrestlers that were added during the pandemic, they haven't wrestled in front of crowds before. So he was interested in seeing, Ring of Honor crowds, I should say. So he was interested in how their crowds would react to these people. And he found that their crowds were very receptive. And so he was surprised that Danhausen it was so over in Ring of Honor, especially since they don't use him that often and he almost always loses. But he did win this time because PCO defeated, I believe it was the Beer City Bruiser with a moonsault. But PCO and Danhausen were pretty well over. You also had the first match was Ray Horus versus Flamita, the demonic Flamita. And this match was very fun too. This match ruled. The Mexican started the show with a great match, ended the show with a great match, had a great match in the middle because Dragon Lee did his thing in the upper mid card of the show. This was phenomenal. Flamita and Ray Horus was really fun. Lucha, when it's done right, is some of the best shit on earth. So the only other thing on this show worth talking about was Matt Taven and Vincent. So Matt Taven and Vincent are going to have a main event match at Glory by Honor on, I think it's August the 21st. So Matt Taven wanted to have a contract. He had this contract and he says, look, it's got to end one way or the other. So he offered Vincent his career. He says, I will leave Ring of Honor, win, lose, or draw if you sign this contract. If you sign this contract to fight me in August, I will leave Ring of Honor whether I win or lose. And then Vincent comes out. He's barefoot all the time now. I guess that's just becoming his thing. He said that he didn't want Matt Taven's career. What he wanted was Matt Taven's world championship match. Because Matt Taven does have a world title match. He has a rematch. He never got a rematch from when he lost titles. So Vincent wants that. Vincent says, okay, you offer me your world title match and a cage match, and I'll sign the contract. So Taven agreed and put up his world title match, and they signed the contract, and then the Righteous kicked his ass. And they threw him through a neon sign. So that was pretty much it. But this was from top to bottom, this was a very good show. The promos were good. With the exception of the boring Chelsea Green promo, because it was literally just, WWE held me down and they didn't want to give me TV time and all that crap. But just about everybody brought their A game. Everybody went out there and worked their ass off. There was no slouching on this show. The energy was there. The crowd was woke for most of these matches. I mean, the crowd kind of slept through EC3 and Flip Gordon and Shane Taylor Promotions and Eli Isom, Dak Draper, and Dalton Castle. They kind of slept through those matches because they were kind of amped for the Briscoes. They were kind of amped for Danhausen, which all was before that. They were up for Brody King and, Jonathan Gresham and all that kind of stuff. They were up for the rest of the card. But they took about 2 matches off. They were kind of like, all right, we're chilling. Save some stuff for the main event guys. But this was, from top to bottom, a great show. It was really fun to watch. Hey, look, man, Ring of Honor can be the best stuff when it's done right. And it was done right tonight. I am legitimately beaming. This is if I was to give this show a rating, I would give it a solid 8. They didn't have a lot of surprises, as far as, the lights go out and then somebody comes out and, They just had the one surprise, which was Chelsea Green, and they said they were going to have a surprise. They didn't like just pop up with somebody. They said, hey, Vita's been taken out. There's going to be more spots open in the women's division tournament. And I think there's still more spots open. I think there's another spot open too. So it's not just Chelsea Green. It's obviously going to be somebody else too. But what really got over here were the matches, the effort that the guys put in, the stories that they tried to tell. It wasn't just high spot artists doing high spots and trying to burn the crowd out early. One match, again, was Dragon Lee and Tony Deppen, where they kind of went over the top with doing spots. But everybody else told a story, and it was a great mix of hardcore matches, because there was 2 hardcore matches on the show, the Fight Without Honor and the Last Man Standing match. So you had that, and you had the great classic wrestling match with Mike Bennett and Jonathan Gresham, and you had a great main event. What more could you ask for? It was a great show. But so Ring of Honor, if you can watch this show, go on the show and watch it. Don't need to watch the whole 4 hours, but you probably should watch Ray Horus and Demonic Flamita. It's on YouTube. It's going to be on there. The first hour of the Best in the World show. It's the first match, so you don't have to skip through anything. But then you can watch the rest of the show. I don't know. I guess on Honor Club, it ought to be pretty good there. But I enjoyed the fuck out of this show, man. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel via the Cash App. You could buy me lunch, or you could subscribe via Subscribestar if you want to be a monthly returning sponsor of the show. Thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort, so question